Hi friends, warm welcome to the kitchen. Today, let's cook something plant-based, of course, that's high in protein and also has quite a rich flavor profile. And it's going to be veg pilaf or pilau or pulao, or as we call it, pilaf in Russia, so it's just a little bit harsher. That's it. For the enhanced protein content of this dish, moreover, it's going to be oil-free. So let's see how we can handle all those spices without oil. Oil is typically quite an essential part of the Indian cuisine. Let's try to make it oil-free and let's see how we go about it. Here you can see all the ingredients that I'm going to use. I'm going to use an Instant Pot for this mission, but you can also use a saucepan, a pan, anything deep that can hold enough rice and cook it for long enough. You can also use a regular Instant Pot, not the programmable one like this one. This is a NutriCook, you don't have to own it. A regular pressure cooker is actually quite a convenient tool to have. We are going to use around 1 cup of rice or up to 2 cups of rice. Of course, we're using soy chunks, that's around 1 cup as well. Both rice and soy chunks need to be pre-soaked, so we are soaking them for around 20 minutes each. The difference is that you soak rice in cold water and soy chunks or TVP in hot water, so it actually also releases the flavor. It can be quite smelly, so the smellier it is, the more you would like to soak it or even boil it so the flavor does evaporate, then you squeeze it. As for the rice, you can soak it for 20 minutes, and I know that some people do soak it for up to 8 hours or overnight. This is believed to reduce the arsenic content of rice, and this is actually one of the concerns that you might have if you eat too much rice. Soaking rice also reduces the phytate contents in rice, which is conventionally named to be an anti-nutrient, meaning that it inhibits the absorption of minerals and other nutrients. So soaking has this benefit of enhancing the bioavailability of the good components inside your rice. One more benefit of soaking the rice, as of soaking anything, is of course soaking does reduce the cooking time. We are ready to prepare the marinade for soy chunks. Actually, anything that carries the flavor, like a barbecue sauce, like curd, like spices, like soy sauce, or like veg broth, can be used to infuse the flavor into the soy chunks once they are rehydrated. Soy chunks are great in absorbing flavor. It does have nice chewy texture. Also, it's quite high in protein, of course, so if you are struggling to hit your protein requirements, TVP is one of the ways to enhance it. For the curd, I'm using silken tofu, a little bit of barbecue sauce, which I've posted the recipe somewhere around here. Spicing up this curd, you can definitely use some cashew nuts. I thought I was buying cashew nuts, but look at them. These are blanched almonds. They would add a little bit of creaminess inside the curd, so I'm going to add them in, and you're going to blend it all together to prepare your nice, cool marinade. Now, soy chunks have been in the water for around 30 minutes. I'm squeezing them out so they do not have in excess liquid. It should take around 20 minutes to marinate soy chunks. I'm also going to add some turmeric, some chili powder, and some salt. Meanwhile, we are getting ready with the aromatics. Let's try this TikTok or Instagram born trend of peeling your garlic by shaking it in a jar and see if it actually works. I was pleasantly surprised by it. You know, using a paring knife is quite tedious, but when you shake the garlic in a jar, the garlic cloves in a jar, it actually does help loosen up the skin. And look, it comes off quite easily. I'm very pleasantly surprised. I'm going to be using this trick. I'm roughly chopping it. Because we are going to cook without oil, we are interested in chopping up the onions a little bit thinner because they need to brown on the pan or inside the Instant Pot in this case, and then we are going to be adding something to deglaze. In this case, I'm going to be using some strained tomatoes. You can also add vegetable broth, or you can use chopped tomatoes in case they have enough liquid or juice inside of them. I'm going to use some ginger, Thai green chilies. You can also use red chilies. I'm not that adventurous today. You can be using 3 to 4 chilies. Today I felt like a little bit less spice. I used to think that the most of the flavor and the most of the spiciness was coming from the seeds, but turns out the most of the spiciness, the most of the hotness comes from the white lining inside of the chili. So if you're very heat sensitive, just remove this part like I'm showing it here. Here I'm risking it a little bit because I'm not wearing any gloves, but if your fingers do feel heat sensitive as well, you might want to wear some gloves in the kitchen when you're handling your chilies. I'm chopping up some carrots. They are approximately the size of onions. I'm just separating all my ingredients in chunks or in batches, or like creating my mise en place. So I'm not panicking when it's time to put something inside the Instant Pot, because Instant Pot, while it's really cool for pressure cooking, it does not have a lot of control around the temperature when you saute things. Do pay attention to how you prepare and portion your ingredients ahead of time. Did I mention we are not going to use any oil in here, right? So we are going to have whole and ground spices. So the purpose of oil is to extract the flavor from the spices, and mainly from the whole spices, like cardamom seeds, like mustard seeds, like fennel seeds, fenugreek. You normally have to toast them or infuse the oil with the flavor and start it in the beginning of the cooking process. So while you're cooking, the flavor develops and the oil carries this flavor. So when we are not using oil, we definitely need to think about the spices more than when we do. And in this case, I'm going to separate the whole spices in one jar and the ground spices in the other jar. So we can add the ground spices in the end of the cooking process, and we can toast some of the whole spices in the beginning of the process. I'm going to use around 1/4 teaspoon of fenugreek seeds. The next thing that I really love is cumin seeds. A little bit of black pepper, freshly ground, works really nicely together with all those flavors. And basil leaf. I'm still grinding them, not to the powder forms, and you can feel the aroma that starts developing, the flavor that starts appearing from when you grind those spices. On to the pre-ground spices. So I'm going with a 1/4 spoon of ginger in here, 1 teaspoon of curry powder, 1/4 teaspoon of mustard powder, some ground cumin as well, 1/4 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon of coriander, and finally we have a little bit of cinnamon, around 1/8 teaspoon. Okay, let's start with cooking. I'm turning on my Instant Pot. It's on saute mode. It heats up pretty fast. We are adding our whole spices first, and we start watching them. Watch them really closely. You need to be aware that they might burn. You start feeling the flavor of those spices and you just toss them around. They've gotten quite hot, and it is better to undercook them a little bit, under toast them, than when they start burning. So here we are ready to add the onions. Have them ready at hand. This is the advantage of this methodology, of having everything laid out in front of you. In this case, we are applying dry heat to our onions, so they do have a chance to caramelize. So one good tip when you are trying to caramelize the onion, make sure that your onions are dry and that you're not adding water right off the bat. If you're using water, leave the onions on the hot surface for a little bit until they start browning and sticking to the pan. It's actually not a bad thing when onions stick to the pan. It means that they started caramelizing. You can deglaze the pan later on. Onions start caramelizing at around 176 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. You allow the onions to heat up enough so they develop a completely different flavor profile. Carrots are the next to go. They are firm enough so they go before garlic. Garlic should go last because it burns quite fast. Watch it quite closely and then add ginger and chilies. They will also need a little bit of time to develop the flavor. finally, garlic. Garlic goes last. It doesn't need more than 30 seconds on a hot surface before it starts burning. So be ready with some deglazing liquid. I'm using some strained tomatoes. That's around half a cup. Toss and allow it to cook for a couple of seconds while you're taking your soy chunks and adding them into the instant pot. After this, you will mix it all and allow it to cook for around 5 minutes until you start cooking rice. If you feel like something is burning, add a little bit of strained tomatoes, tomato paste with water, some vegetable broth, or just water to deglaze the pan a little bit and add a little bit of moisture. Please do remember to throw out the water from the rice. Wash out your rice once again and add it to the instant pot. The last two steps are the rice and the ground spices. If you notice, we are adding them in the end of the process for a reason that we described previously, and then we are ready to pressure cook it for around 10 minutes. You can, if you're using a pressure cooker, the regular pressure cooker, this can be around 2 whistles, and after it's done, just allow it to slow release. I normally do not pay enough attention to garnishing things, but here, parsley or coriander, unless you hate them, absolutely add some mint in this case, but parsley and coriander do make this thing taste so much nicer, just adding a different, fresher dimension to this warm and filling flavor of this pilau. I cannot recommend this enough. It's such an amazing filling dish, especially if you are into the spicier foods. It's not very spicy, it's just really flavorful. The flavor profile of this is quite rich. This can be a more suitable alternative for someone watching their oil consumption. And also, it's really easy to make in case you have an instant pot, especially. I highly recommend investing in one, or if you're just cooking that on a stove. If you're familiar with any other interesting recipes with soy chunks, please let me know. I'm quite curious to explore this aspect of soy. If you liked this video, please do give it a like. Leave a comment down below what you liked, what you would change. It's really nice to receive feedback from you. If you really feel like it, please do subscribe to the channel. This helps more than you know. It helps the channel to grow and develop, to reach out to more people, and overall, if it helps someone to learn something new, to eat a little bit of more greens and plants and be healthier, feel better, I will be more than happy. I hope you are having a great day. Be healthy, be well. Do eat some greens today. They're generally quite good for you. Know what you eat, and I see you in the next video. Bye.